we discovered is I think that the first step is to book your flight. And so even like United, they will tell you if you go on any of these like carriers websites, you can search service animals even before you book your flight. And then it'll tell you all of like what they expect from you in order to fly with your animal on their airline. And the DOT form, the Department of Transportation form, is, I think, universal, that everybody has to complete it, where you're saying what's the weight, the breed, the vaccination, that information. And it also has a section where you have to list the tasks, and they want you to be like really specific about those tasks, not general, like, oh, they comfort me or they, help guide me. They want specific. And if you have a service dog, even if it's for a situation like with us where it's autism, the commands, you've already know what those commands are. They specifically trained you on. So like it might be as specific, and I think we did it for ours, is like lap, like Chrissy can go and get in Jack's lap and put her front paws on his lap, or she can go visit and put her face on his knee and help regulate him. So that's the kind of specific stuff that we put in the form. It's good to already have an idea of like which 2 tasks you're going to use, because the airline can ask you, but they can't ask you to demonstrate it. They can only ask you like, well, what service, what 2 tasks does this dog perform? And that's pretty much the same if like you've had experience taking your service dog to the zoo. Like we've taken her to the Houston Zoo and they ask, what are the 2 tasks? Alaska and several other airlines have a thing called Open Doors, where it's basically an online portal. Basically, it's where all the service animal forms portal is. And so it allows you to fill out the form online, submit it, and receive a service animal ID number. And then once you get that ID number, emails back to you, the Department of Transportation, then it has an option within this Open Doors to inform the airline of your travel. So then you can put in your flight info, because you've already booked your flight, and your new service dog ID number. And that is like your service dog ID number from this, Department of Transportation Open Doors organization forever. And so then you always can just go to this Open Doors portal that some of these airlines have partnered with. I think the airlines that are with them are Alaska, Allegiant, JetBlue, Sun Country. So anyways, it makes it really convenient if you're flying Alaska. I think United just asks that you fill out the Department of Transportation form and then bring it with you, unless you're a Mileage Plus account and you can do it online and they link it to your trip. So it just depends on the airline. All airlines have what they call an accessibility number. So you kind of bypass all of the waiting and hold, and they have, at least our experience, like with calling Alaska's accessibility number, was they were really friendly. They were really like helpful in like confirming that your flight and your ticket do show that you have a service dog flying in the cabin with you. And then they can help you get the right seats. So through Alaska, once we had her registered and we had the DOT form done and the number, we called their accessibility line, and we were able to then be placed in seats that would be the easiest for our family. So a lot of times the people who are flying with service dogs or have done it will say, request the bulkhead. It's that kind of row 6. Usually it's right between first and the beginning of like the general seating. And it has like the wall. And that way your dog can kind of like lean against the wall, have a little extra foot room. And I think some people, I think it might be now that you have to pay extra to book those seats. But when you're doing it through this, if they're accessibility, if there's seats available, they give them to you. So the second option, and that might be something that is not spoken about as much, is that there's also wheelchair accessible aisles. So I don't know that they have more seating or room, but it's kind of where a lot of, I think, people with accessibility issues might have more support. Like the stewardesses know, I know the people in these rows need my attention. And then one of the things that we did is we researched the pet relief areas ahead of time for each of the airports we were going to be at. So airports will usually post that, or you'll find it in blogs and people will share online, but the airport will usually list the actual designated pet relief areas that are outside of the airport and inside of the airport, what terminals, what gate they're nearby. And so that was really beneficial for us to know, because we're already stressed out traveling with kids. And my husband has a disability, my son has a disability. So I wanted to know exactly when I got there and when I landed, and vice versa, when we got to the other airport and left, where all the pet relief area was. I didn't want to be like walking in circles and stressing everybody out. And so what our puppy raisers had told us was those inside bathrooms for dogs are like kind of like what are they called? Porta potties. They smell. They were awful. I don't blame it. My dog was like, apparently she'd never used one. So they always had to find a grassy or rocky area outside of the airport. So they kind of warned us of that ahead of time. And what I have found is, and it might help families, is that baggage claim, so usually downstairs, those areas outside of baggage claim, there's usually grass, not usually up top in arrivals, but in downstairs, there's grass, or there's like a mossy area or something. If you feel like your pet won't use an inside pet space, or they're refusing to use it, then you should maybe try downstairs in the baggage claim area. What we were told and what we did and worked is to withhold food and water 2 hours prior to travel. So Canine Companions form says maybe skip that, the closest meal to travel. But we found that if we're gonna be traveling and leaving at 7, we'll feed her, we'll get up early, we'll feed her at 5, and then we'll walk her, let her take care of all her business right before we leave. And one of the helpful tips that puppy raisers told us was, when you get to the airport, check in your bags, confirm that they know that your service dog is flying with you, check in for your flight. And then before you go through security, go find a pet relief area, because now you have less bags that you're carrying. You already know you're checked in for your flight, but before getting in the security line and going through, because once you go through, you would have to go back out. You would have to, go through it all again. So we set up our family, and like once we did all that, in a little corner, and then I took our dog downstairs to the baggage claim where there was like grassy, and I didn't know if there was grassy area. I actually asked some of the security. I find that the security people, not necessarily the checkout people, but security people around that check-in arrival area usually know where, like, hey, is there some grass around here? Is there some rocks? Because then at least you've gone your very last time before you go. So I won't go over the packing list, because I think Canine Companions has a really good packing list of things to buy. But what they didn't have on there is a towel. That was really helpful. Our puppy raisers told us, bring a towel, put it down on the ground where she's going to be in front of us in the seat. And that way she kind of has like a designated little bed space to curl up on. I also found it was really helpful for ride shares. They can't tell you your service dog can't go with you, but they do like look at you like you're bringing a dog in my car. And so I found that it was really respectful and helpful to then also be able to just whip out the towel out of my backpack and lay it down on the ground of the ride shares. And then also they were the ones that gave me that tip. It was super helpful to have it for her to know this is like my comfy spot. And then also I figured if she had a little bit of an accident, which she didn't, like, at least it's on a towel. Yeah. In order to kind of just keep them occupied and also help clear their ears, is to give them something to chew on when you're descending and ascending. So takeoff and landing. So they had recommended for her edible rawhide free chewy bones, something chewy that she can just, like, as soon as you can feel that the plane's about to take off, you can give it to them. And they even sell like 2 packs on Amazon. So they had told me use one when you go, and then when you come home, you already have another one in your bag. My only thing I would say is try whatever you're going to give her before you go on the plane. because I realized that I had never given her this food I had ordered on Amazon. And I had seen some reviews, you know, some dogs can have a bad reaction or maybe like get an upset tummy. And I thought, oh my gosh, we do not want diarrhea for the first time from a new snack. So I would say whatever you give them, try it before. The security line. So, you know, we went out, I went and had her use the bathroom. We went back through. The security line was massive. Waiting in a massive long line with kids with disabilities. So what I started doing and they don't publicize it, is asking where's the handicap accessibility security line. So if you're at an airport like Houston, where there's only usually 3 people, it doesn't matter. You could just go through. But in Seattle, they have like clear, and they have, you know, for people that have that clear pass, and then they have first class, and then they have general flying. And the line is like the 4-hour Disneyland line. So I asked, I'm like, oh, I don't know, you just go down there, you know, and I asked again, and I thought, okay, there has to be a handicap accessibility line. And then they were like, finally found somebody who was like, you go to like line 5. So I would definitely suggest to families, like, don't just assume you have to get in the normal security line. Ask if that airport has a handicap accessibility line, because we ended up just going right through and then being able to like go through the security clearance. You might want to practice going through a doorway with your service dog. They cannot ask you to take their coat off or their leash off, but you don't want the dog to push through the line, the security, you know, magnetic thing, because if they bump it, it hits it, it tags it. And I think it's like you have 2 or 3 chances before they end up pulling you aside and like patting you all down. So they said you might want to practice walking up to it, telling your dog to sit. You still hold their leash. You walk through it yourself, turn around, and then tell them to come to you. So we practice that on walks with treats. We practice that in doorways so that she would be good at knowing when I'm going to tell her to wait, then I'm going to walk forward through a doorway, and then I'm going to tell you to come and follow after me. When you arrive at your destination, you'll have been withholding water probably 2 hours before and throughout the flight. And at this point, they're going to be really dehydrated from flying. So, and they're probably going to need to use the bathroom right away. So the minute we arrived at our destination, I had already researched where some of the pet relief areas were inside the airport. And also, again, there's usually a lot of signs if people look around. Our first thing we did before we went to baggage claim was to find a pet relief area. And lo and behold, she wasn't as picky. She had to go to the bathroom, and she did. And we also gave her water right away. So usually people can travel with like pop-up water things. And that was one of the things we were able to give her water. So I would say pet relief area, as soon as you get off the plane, and giving them water. And then if they're not going to use the indoor one, then when you do get to baggage claim, and this is what we did as well when we landed back in Houston, is we just walked out to the grass outside while my husband stayed with the kids and used the bathroom before we got into the ride share.